Welcome back. Happy Friday. We have Mayor Peter Milobar joining us on the show. Great to have you back.
It's always good to be here.
How has your week been? Busy?
It's been busy with the referendum coming up, but
yes.
That's a good thing, I guess. So.
Tomorrow's a big day. I know that we had huge turnout at both advanced polls down at the Heritage House. Are you hoping to see an equal amount of interest tomorrow for the general voting day?
That's the hope. We did see larger than normal advanced numbers on the general election as well, less than a year ago, and then unfortunately by the time the election dust had settled, we had a pretty average voter turnout. So hopefully it continues forward, but we'll only know for sure once tomorrow comes and goes.
Absolutely. And on Midday in the last few weeks, we've had the committee for the PAC, and we've had the committee that's speaking out against the PAC, saying the PAC, but not now is I think what they call themselves. So just earlier this week we had Nellie Dever on the show, and she is coming out saying maybe this isn't the right choice for us at this time, and that she feels that there's more involved financially to Kamloops residents than what we're hearing about. So we thought we would play a clip from Nellie. She was here, I believe, on Tuesday, and see what she has to say, and then we'll have you respond to it. Okay, here we go.
So right now, what we've picked up through through City PR is it's 2%, which really equates to $38 a household. But that's not the whole picture, and that's where we're going. Please, people, get informed, have that discussion around what will the end dollar figure be. That 2% will equate to $38 million in property taxes, yes. But on top of that, in order to do the debt servicing, the city needs to come up with $4.6 million a year. And where that's coming from, it's in a very small spot on their city webpage under frequently asked questions. They're wanting to take $2 million out of your game and gas tax for 20 years, which is another $40 million. And they also want to take $710,000 out of the parking reserve every year. That's $14 million. So the taxpayer's purse, because that money belongs to the taxpayer, it's a total of $92 million that will come through the taxpayer.
Okay, so what do you have to say to that?
Well, in the next 20 years, we're going to spend $200 million a year, so I guess, you know, we shouldn't spend $4 billion over the next 20 years either. You know, frankly, the Not Yet group seem like they're a little disgruntled that they weren't part of the design team or something. I'm not sure. They're not saying no. They say it should be 800 seats, but they have no reason to come up with that number. We've studied what we're missing for numbers of seats, what promoters are looking for numbers of seats, talking with the public, what they want to see, and that's key to all of this. This is based on public input sessions, public wants, the promoters' needs to come up with 1,200 seats. People said 1,500. We looked at that, realized that was too big for our city. You know, our numbers are very solid. They may not like them. It's not PR. It's actually what the true numbers are. They also fling out it should be $35 million to build, with no basis in reality on how you're going to build something for $35 million. You know, our numbers are solid. We're committed to a maximum of 1% a year in 2016 and 2017. No more. That's your property taxes. It's a fact that it's $38 for an average household. We've made no secret that we'd be using gas tax and gaming funds. You know, the $92 million she references, 20 million of that is basically operating costs over 20 years. And we've been very clear that that's built into the 1% tax hikes. What she also isn't mentioning is the fact that it seems to be a surprise to her that when you borrow money and there's an interest payment, that it's going to cost more money by the end of the term than what the 49 million borrowing is. So of course it's going to be more than 49 million by the end of it. It's no different than a mortgage on your house. But when you buy a home, you don't run to your parents and say, hey, I'm really excited, I just bought a house for $250,000, or that is what you say. You don't say, I just bought a house for $250,000, but with my mortgage and interest rate, it's really going to be $375,000 by the time it's paid off. So we're using very common language that everyone has come to understand. The question people have on Saturday is whether they want to see our city grow and thrive with the arts community and borrow up to a maximum of $49 million, and it will impact your taxation a maximum of $38 per year for an average household.
Do you feel confident, Peter, as well, that what we should see coming in, as they say, build it and they will come, do you feel that that's going to be a huge spin-off as well?
Well, that's the hope. And I mean, I've ran on 2 elections now. Last election, 17,000 people voted for me, and I had this as a very big piece of my campaign. You know, I think a lot of people were expecting it would be a little bit of a property tax hike to build a big major civic building, and that's what this is. The top 9 council candidates all had this as part of the support of this project in their campaigns as well in some form or another. In fact, you'd have to go to the 10th place finish in that election to find somebody who was opposed to the concept. And I think as council, as a group, we've done a very good job of making sure we try to do things affordably as possible. That's why we said no on the first cut of the Tronquil corridor improvements when it was at $25 million. We said that's not on. We're not spending $25 million on trees and plants and beautification. And we went back to the drawing board. We worked with the North Shore BIA in the neighborhood, and we came up with a game plan that as we're doing roadworks and as we have to do sewer works, that we know what it's going to look like when we put it all back together, and it's in the more affordable range of the $8-9 million total, including some of those other projects. So that's what we do every time, and that's what we're doing with this project. And it's unfortunate that people they're not saying no. That's why I'm, I guess, so confused about this. They feel that their concept is different, and it's a little disingenuous to use Nanaimo and Chilliwack as an example and say it should be 800 seats because they're 800 seats. They're not mentioning the fact that both those cities, because of the success of their Performing Arts Center, are trying to expand their Performing Arts Center as we speak. And so they're not really giving the full breadth of what's actually going on out there. The study they reference out of Chicago that's been referenced, it actually asked all 500 participants, is your city at a better place, better off for building the PAC? 95% of the respondents said yes, they are. So the reality is we can quibble over it's going to be $11 million of economic spin-off or $10.5 million of economic spin-off. But I'm asking people vote yes because of the bigger vision, the bigger piece of a major public investment in a major public amenity space that's going to be used for 30, 40, 50 years. You think back to 1947 with Memorial Arena. How crazy was it to think of building 3,000 seats back then for hockey? You think of the TCC, you think of the letters to the editor. If you go back to the Tournament Capital referendum, those letters, if you take the words Tournament Capital Project out and put in Performing Arts Center, literally everything else in there for why we shouldn't have done it is the exact same. Not now, we can't afford it, we'll never use it, it's going to be underused, it's going to be a white elephant. All those types of little very interesting catchphrases have been used, but the reality is every time we built a major public building, it gets used in ways we never imagined when we were designing it. It gets heavily used, and the TCC is a great example of that. Sandman Center is a great example of that. The current Sagebrush Theatre is a great example of that. These buildings get used by the public, and so for people to say, I'll never use it, that's flat out not true. They will. They'll go to a graduation there. They'll go to a speaker series there. They may not go to a concert where they're paying, $60 for a ticket or something. I can appreciate that. But they will use it. It's a major city building.
Peter Milobar, thank you very much for speaking to this. And at the end of the day, we absolutely know where your position is, and everybody has a chance to have their own say. And so you can't complain about it unless you get out and vote. That's tomorrow. And on the front of the Kamloops This Week paper today is a list of all the places you can go. Lots of elementary schools, Heritage House downtown, all day tomorrow, and then it will be decided.
Yep, 16 polling stations, 8 to 8. Lots of opportunity. It only takes 5 or 10 minutes on the actual voting day to get out. The lines are a bit longer in advance, but I would encourage people. There's been a lot of people on both sides of this that have invested a lot of time and energy into it, and I would ask that the public invest 15 minutes tomorrow to go out and actually vote.
All right, well said. Peter, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
We had a few more topics, but as always, we run out of time, and that's okay. Information on the screen if you'd like to take any issues up with the mayor, mayor@kamloops.ca. We're back in 2 minutes. Stay with us.